Just a wonderful time to be involved with the football club. I didn't get paid for 3 months, so we went 3 months without any salary.
Incredible seasons in Southend's history with the playoff final.
I thought it was very disrespectful.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 24 of the Blues News podcast. We're getting through them now, 24. I am with Adam Barrett, Southend United legend. Really excited to have you on, Adam. Firstly, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Delighted to be on. But yeah, life's good. Can't complain. I'm good.
Brilliant. Yeah, we've got loads to talk about today. One of the players with the most amazing careers, really, that I've ever had on. So yeah, we've got loads to talk about. So we'll get straight into it. If we start by talking about your earlier career, so what age did you start playing?
Oh God, actually playing in a team was probably I think it started at under nines when I was coming through, so it was later than what it is now. Kids start, but I had an elder brother, 2 years older, so I was probably starting to play in his team or in and around his team training. So I was probably about 7 when I was which was earlier than most kids at the time. Locally. So I played for Fairfax Rangers. That was my first team, and then went on to Hawkwall. But my dad was always encouraged it. I had an elder brother, like I said, he was a goalkeeper. So the two of us I was taking shots at him, but as long as I can remember, I always had a ball at my feet.
Well, so you started your career at Leyton Orient, but your first big breakthrough season was the 1999-2000 season, where you made over 50 appearances for Plymouth, and you're only about 21 years old, I believe. So was that a bit of a surprise I believe it was your first season at Plymouth, getting so many appearances and really making an impact there?
No, not really. I was always, I went to Plymouth, so I was 18 when I went there, and then it was 19 when I made my debut. Loved my time there. It was, it was brilliant. I didn't know where Plymouth was from when I first went down there. It was a bit of a culture shock. Been used to obviously Essex and London, but no, loved it. It was brilliant. But I was so hungry when I went down there, really determined to make me mark. So was it a surprise? No, not really. I had some really good people down there. The captain at the time, Mickey Heathcote, an experienced centre half, and Craig Taylor. And to be honest, I just wanted their shirt. I went down there and I was determined to go and take their shirt. And funny enough, my full debut was at Roots Hall against Southend, and after 20 minutes scored, which was quite ironic. So I had about 30, 40 fans all my family was in the main stand. So we went 1-0 up, 20 minutes I've scored. My nan was up, my family, and it was brilliant. Brilliant to come back to Roots Hall, but obviously at the time I was with Plymouth, but it was that was the start, but it was a great season, really good season, first season for us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're obviously going to talk about your Southend career in just a moment, but there's a few other teams to talk about. So you left Plymouth, and obviously went to Mansfield, played there for a couple of years. How hard was that transitioning at quite a young age where, as you said, you went from London, Essex sort of area, you went all the way to Plymouth, and then you went up to Mansfield. That's quite a lot of sort of moving about. How difficult was that to transition?
To be honest, I didn't care. I just wanted to play football. I really wasn't. I wasn't fussed at the time where it was. I just wanted to get, play as many games. I wanted to be successful. And Mansfield come in for us when I was at Plymouth. Paul Sturrock had just come in as the manager of Plymouth, and I was suspended. I got sent off against Leyton Orient, and I had a 3-game ban. Paul Sturrock come in, and I was missing for 3 games. And I was, I was ambitious, probably a little bit more hot-headed as a youngster. And I went in, I want to play. I played 50-odd games for the club, young player of the year before. And he didn't really know us and was sort of trying to say, just relax, calm down, take your time. And Mansfield come in, and I was like, right, I want to go. I want to go and play. And my Mansfield career started really well. Went up there, and it was a fantastic start. And then unfortunately I got an ankle injury, which was on off and kept me out for about 8 months, which was quite frustrating, very frustrating at the time. And then when I come back fit, the second season, that was my first promotion with Mansfield. So it was a really, really good time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, moving wasn't a problem to me. Didn't care. Like I said, I just wanted to play and enjoy my football. And so yeah, and like I said, going up there was no issue whatsoever.
No, I think with this podcast, it almost feels weird. It feels like we're like pit stopping these kind of teams before we get to Southend, because if we spent time talking about each of them in so much detail, we'd be here for hours. You've played for so many clubs, made so many great, played so many great games and whatnot. We're going to get on to Southend in just a moment. There is another club we speak about, obviously Bristol Rovers, where you played, I believe it was just under 100 league games, around that sort of mark. So how was your time there?
Yeah, again, just got promoted with Mansfield, and it was when ITV Digital went bust. So the money in the game, there was it was quite an uncertain period in football. My contract was up. Bristol Rovers come in for us, big club, and I was captain there. So I was only 21 when made captain. So it just felt like a really good move. So I went down there. I was there for 2 seasons, played virtually every game. A great learning curve for myself, as being captain so young. A lot of expectation and sort of pressure. So it was the first time I sort of really dealt with that, which was great. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. It was a good football club, a lot of good people, and I would have stayed there. I got offered a new contract at the end of my 2 years there. Like I said, been captain for 2 years, and had a phone call from Paul Brush at the last minute at Southend, and twisted my arm. Well, didn't really twist it. As soon as I got the call, I was delighted to come back home.
Something that I noticed when I was researching the podcast is because we're talking about so many clubs that you played for, and often when the players play for so many clubs, it was, they played 5 games here, 10 games there, whatever. But with you played a lot of games for each of these clubs. Is that something that you're really proud of in your career, that at each of these clubs you still managed to play a lot of games?
Yeah, I was, like I said, I just love playing. I was always them. I'd play through injury. I'd take painkillers. It doesn't happen so much nowadays, but I just wanted to play. That's all I wanted to do as a kid. That was my passion. That was what I got into football for. So, and I was really determined. That was my, one of my strengths in my career. Very determined, 100%, day in, day out. And I'm extremely proud of the amount of games I played in my career, because not many people get to the figures that I did get to, and averaging 40, 45 games a season for so many years. Of course, extremely proud of that. And I had great times at all of them. Really good people, and it was mainly leaving the clubs was down to your contract coming to an end, and then someone else comes in for you. So there was a little bit of moving around early on in my career, but then obviously when I got the call, I actually got offered more money to stay at Bristol Rovers. The new contract was offered. It was more money than what Southend had offered me, but just the law to come back home and come and put the blue shirt on and play for the club that I was on the terraces with was just too big a draw for me.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk about it now then. Your first spell with Southend. Obviously, there were 2 spells. We'll talk about the first spell first. So in 2004, you left Bristol Rovers, signed for Southend. And really, I mean, the perfect start with Southend. The first 2 seasons, I mean, you couldn't ask for better seasons, really. So in your first season, 2004, 2005, you won promotion with the club through the playoffs, scored 11 goals, which we'll talk about as well. How many goals you scored as a centre-back is something that, well, it's quite rare, really, for centre-backs to score that many goals. But 11 goals in your first season. You were voted player of the season by the fans. So talk me through that season then. That must have been the perfect start, really.
Yeah, it was just a magical time to be at the football club. So when I first come back, I felt a little bit of pressure because grew up on the terraces. A lot of friends, family went to school in the area. My parents, season ticket holders, my father-in-law, parents, friends, my mates. So I felt there was a little bit of pressure coming back. But I was just so hungry to get started. I couldn't wait. I loved playing at Roots Hall, even for when previous clubs. Every time I come back to Roots Hall, I just loved it. It felt home. And sometimes, I've been at various clubs and enjoyed my time, but there was something about Southend was just special to me. It's my club.
Yeah.
And when you put the shirt on, it was just a great feeling. And yeah, got off to a great start. Scored on my home debut. Scored away at Bristol Rovers, funny enough, my first away game, and then scored on my home debut twice. And just hit the ground running, and the team. Then we sort of built up a little bit of momentum. Had really good team spirit. I was playing alongside one of my good friends in Shay Wilson. I'd known Shay since we was 11, playing district football together. So to play alongside him for the first time was brilliant, and we had a really good mix. And it was just a great time to be at the club. The town was buzzing. You could feel it around the place, and it was an absolute pleasure to play at Roots all week in, week out.
Definitely. Well, we'll pretty much go season by season, some memorable games, things like that. That's pretty much how we'll lay it out. So the next season then, 2005, 2006, well, it was just pretty much just as great for you. Another promotion, obviously back to back to the Championship, even winning the title just ahead of our rivals Colchester, which is always a nice little bonus. Again, for the second season in a row as well, you were voted into the PFA Team of the Year, which is amazing. Did it feel like a bit of a fairy tale? Coming back to the club where you'd watched on the terraces. You just mentioned about all your family and friends watching, and you have two of really the best seasons that centre back and any player can really ask for.
Yeah, it was just, I felt so confident at the time. I was, 25, 26, really good age. I'd had a lot of games under my belt, enjoying my football, playing with a smile on my face, and just a real determination to do well for my club. I lived and breathed it, live in the area, felt what people felt. And I really did feel every time I put the shirt on, I was playing for everyone, my mates. I was playing for that boy that stood on the North Bank, and that's how it felt to me. And I never once took it for granted. And I'd like to think one thing people will say is that every time I stood on that pitch, whether I played good, bad, indifferent, I give my all, and I left it all out there. And it was. It was just a wonderful time to be involved with the football club, and to be a part of probably one of the most successful periods in the club's history and play a big part in it. And personally, it was going so well for myself. It's great memories. I love talking about it. It's when people remind me, and then it brings back the memories and that. And it's it was a special time, and especially. You all see it as football fans. You have good times, bad times, and when you do have the good times, you've really got to enjoy it, because they are special and they don't last forever.
Definitely. Well, this was the same sort of time that you were actually made captain of the club, and I've obviously been talking to you, and I can really understand how much it means to you to play for the club. But for any player, they always say, the epitome of playing and everything is being the captain. So how did that feel? And also with the captain's armband, did you feel an extra level of pressure?
I was always, you got to go back to my district school, Orient youth team. When I was always captain. I always liked leading. I was always vocal. I liked to drive standards. It was just, something within us. So to get the armband was, very proud, very honoured to put the armband on. Did I feel pressure? No. I think I'm one of them. I like the responsibility. I like having that responsibility of now leading and driving standards and people coming to you. So even when I didn't have the armband, I was always felt I was a natural leader within the group and a natural captain. But yeah, of course, to get the armband was another, like I said, pinch yourself. You go from a little boy to then playing for your club, to then captaining your club, to get promotions and success. It was, brilliant times, and so thankful and pleased that I managed to live through and live part of my dream.
Well, one thing that is, I mean, it's probably the most famous game in Southend's history. In 2006, actually a month before I was born, in November, I was born in December. So against Man United at home, Roots Hall. But unfortunately for you, you actually, I believe you failed a fitness test the day before the game. Talk me through that. How gutting was that to miss out on a game of that magnitude?
Yeah, it was a difficult period because obviously we'd gone up to the Championship at the time, and we started the season really well. Unfortunately, so after the first, 15 games, whatever it was, I'd done my double hernia against Hull at home. I felt it, and I was trying to play through pain. Had injections, painkillers, and it was the week before we went to Wolves, had a fitness, and it just wasn't right. I couldn't, and it was really frustrating because I'd had 2.5 years of not missing a game. I felt in the best shape of my life. I felt so confident. I started the Championship season really, really well, strong, and it just seemed to come out of nothing. So yeah, I was gutted. Obviously, then the Manchester United game come along. So from a personal point of view, it was really hard for me. I found it difficult. You'd gone from being a major part of the team and a leader, and it was difficult to miss that night, of course. But on the flip side, as you put your Southend fans' head on, it was a fantastic evening. It was great to be around the lads in the dressing room after and before. But as a professional, there was always that little bit inside that it was, I was absolutely devastated personally to miss out on it. But look, it was a fantastic night for the football club. I've had so many great occasions. You can't have everything. You can't be greedy. But it was a night that everyone. It's not a night everyone talks about. Everyone remembers. And I was just pleased that obviously I weren't fit to play in the game, but I was there and managed to enjoy it as well.
And thankfully, it won't be the last Great Cup game that we talk about. And the next one you actually featured in. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, as you said, you've had so many great moments in your career, but just a shame about that one. But I've actually got a poster of it just on my wall. So I was just looking at it just then to get the exact date. But, yeah, so, sad that you couldn't participate in it. But, what a brilliant game, and something that I love to tell my Man United mates about. I was reminded of that one. So you spoke about a decent start to the season, doing really well at the start in our first season in the Championship. But sadly, at the end of the 2006-2007 season, Southend were relegated back down to League One. What was the feeling at the end of that season then? I mean, I guess I could kind of guess what the feeling would be, but talk me through how that felt.
It was difficult because we'd done so well, and I think even Christmas time, I think we was just below mid-table. But what you realise with the Championship is I just don't think we had the strength in depth in the squad. I don't think we invested. I'll always go back. I think Barnsley went and got 5 players in January, and we didn't get anyone. Or we might have got one. And then we had injuries. Like I said, I'd been a mainstay for 2.5 years. I missed 20 games that season, and I missed a crucial period over Christmas and New Year and early part of the year, which was a big bulk of games. So from a personal point of view, it was really frustrating for me because it was your first season in the Championship where I'd started really well. A couple of goals against Sunderland, and I felt I was playing. I felt as confident as I've ever done, and to get the injury, which really sort of derailed me a little bit, and so I was disappointed with personally. And then I come back just at the end of the season, but it was almost too late. We were in a bit of trouble. So I think you look back at that, and I think when we had our strongest 11 on the pitch, we were very competitive in the division. I just don't think the squad was probably strong in depth to be able to carry key injuries and to get us over the line. So it was a learning curve, and I think we was all then determined to get back there because it's a fantastic league, very, very competitive. But of course, you've been relegated, and we'd had such a high and such a wave of everything was going our way and the town was behind it. So, of course, disappointment, but you've got to dust yourself off and then get yourself ready for the next season. From a personal point of view, it was just trying to get back with no injuries and get back to playing. So the off-season that year for me was an important one as well, because it was just back to hard graft and making sure that, my hernia and I'd done my double adductor as well, that was all ready to go and start the next season.
You've experienced this as a player and a coach. We're going to talk about your coaching career so far a little bit later when we talk about your time at Millwall. But what would you? This may be a difficult one, but would you say the gap between League One and the Championship? Do you reckon it was bigger then when you were playing back then, or do you reckon it's bigger now in the modern time?
I don't know. I think it's probably similar. I mean, the game slightly changed, but I wouldn't say that it was any bigger then to what it is now. I mean, the finances are probably. I think it's probably a bigger jump going from the Championship to the Premier League. That's where teams seem to really, really struggle. But like I said, I think if we'd have just invested a little bit, I think we would have. I think we'd have been fine. I think we'd have stayed up in it. And it's always that first, if you can stay up the first season, I think then you can build like we had at Millwall. Make sure you start the first season, invest, and then all of a sudden you start establishing yourself. But no, I don't think the gap's any bigger. I wouldn't say it's every time you make the jump up, it's always difficult. The level goes up. And I mean, you've seen teams that have come up from League One and done very well in the Championship now. I know, obviously, the Ipswiches, and they've got the financial backing, and but it's tough, when you jump any league, it's difficult because, like I said, it's levels in football, and it goes up.
Yeah, well, so the next two seasons really saw the club trying to get back to the Championship, try to get back where they left off really in the Championship, but. In the season after, you lost 5-1 in the playoffs. I believe you drew the first leg 0-0, and then the second leg was 5-1. Obviously, losing a playoff is difficult in any capacity, but losing on that scoreline, did that make it sting just that extra bit?
Yeah, it was tough because, I mean, to be fair to Doncaster, they were very good that year. I give them their dues. I thought they were a very difficult team to play against. They had some very good players. We got a good result at home. All right, it was a draw. We'd like to have gone up there with it, but we went up there very, very confident. And it's little moments in games that change things, especially big games like Championship. We had a great opportunity to go 1-0 up. Jimmy Walker hit the bar, and we should have gone 1-0 up. It was a great chance. We missed it. They went straight back down the other end, and Peter Clark gave a penalty away. So you go from should be 1-0 up away from home to being 1-0 down, and then you're chasing. And everything that night that Doncaster done just come off from it. Just it was one of them nights for them. Of course, losing was, whether you lose 1-0 or 5-0, it's devastating. And we weren't a team that ever got rolled over. We never got rolled over, but it just seemed their night when. James 𝗕𝗮𝗄 was on fire for them. Everything he hit seemed to go in, and they scored some cracking goals. But it's fine margins. Like I said, if we'd have gone 1-0 up, it's a different game. And you go from not going 1-0 up to 30 seconds later, you're 1-0 down and you're chasing. But it was we took 2,000-3,000 fans up there that night, and they were singing after it. And even in defeat, I mean, the supporters were unbelievable. And it was the real feel of the place at the time. Those 4 years, it was tremendous. There was a real connection between the players, the staff, the fans, and everyone was together. So even in defeat, I mean, I've never seen anything like. I've had it a couple of times. Southampton away when we got relegated, when we took 3,000 up there. I mean, that was phenomenal. The support, and Doncaster sticks out for me as well. When how much the supporters had appreciated our efforts all season. And, sometimes in football, it's not your night. And but yeah, extremely disappointed. And I think that was probably the start of, unfortunately, that squad got broken up then. We lost a few players, and then the finances off the pitch started to fall apart a little bit, which made the next couple of years quite difficult for everyone.
Well, I think something with Southend that obviously is really really quite a prevalent thing with Southend at the moment. Well, not at the moment. We've, in the past like year or so, we've had all sorts of issues. But what many looking in won't know is that these issues have been going on for so long at the club. Had been going on for so long at the club, and there was so much issues and turmoil behind the scenes. So during your whole time with Southend, how was it dealing with everything going off the pitch, and kind of dealing with that and controlling it to perform so well on the pitch?
Yeah, I think first of all, the first 4 years were amazing. It was the best time to be. Even we got to the playoffs. All right, we didn't win the playoffs on that occasion, but it was a fantastic. So many great memories and nights and performances, and it really was a great time to be there. Over the next sort of 18 months after that, it was a real difficult. And where I found it, especially my last year before I left to go to Crystal Palace, it was, people don't see it. We didn't get paid for 3 months. So we went 3 months without any salary. And you've got family, you've got mortgages, I had a young family myself. I was captain, so I was the sort of go-between. And I think that the hardest thing for us was it wasn't knowing what was going on. You're going day by day and you're hearing rumours, and there wasn't any great clarity in what was happening. Obviously, the club had got into financial problems. I know there was a recession, or the housing market crashed, and obviously the chairman, I think, found it very difficult. But I think it was just the lack of communication that made it really difficult. And it was a great learning curve. I mean, you're dealing with stuff really as a footballer that you don't expect to be dealing with. You just want to, you get paid your money. It's like any job, and you want to go and do your job. That's it. You want to go and work. And I think, especially in something like a sporting or an entertainment where you're now got to go and perform in front of people and you're judged, there was a hell of a lot going on behind the scenes. And I found it very frustrating because I was at a stage in my career where you was in your prime, in your years, and I'm seeing the squad and the team sort of get dismantled around you, not when the manager's fault, just through finances, and we ended up in 2 years looking like one of the strongest teams, definitely one of the strongest teams outside the Championships. All of a sudden, we couldn't field a bench. I remember going up to Leeds. We played Leeds one day, and sort of a year earlier, Lee Trundle had great battles with Lee Trundle when he was at Swansea, and we're in the lineup with Ellen Road. And he comes up, he goes, what's happened to your team? And it didn't hit me. And I looked down the line at our team as we're lining up, and we looked like a youth team. Whereas just 6 months, 12 months earlier, we was a proper team, and people feared us, and we just we lost that. So it's very hard. I found it hard as a captain. I found it hard because I cared so much about the club and what was going on. But you've also got your career to get on with as well, and it's it was a difficult period, but we still had a lot of good people there, and we was all working our socks off and trying as hard as you could to keep things afloat. Just unfortunately, it was it's very difficult when it's like that, and you see it everywhere. It's unfortunately the clubs, when they start to slide, and the finances aren't there to put a halt to it, it becomes very, very difficult.
So how was it? Because obviously, we'll talk about it in a moment, but when you left the club, obviously the issues didn't stop there behind the scenes. So many issues, even till literally just last year, really, with 𝗕𝗟𝗔𝗥𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗧. Until then, the issues were going on throughout the whole time. So how was it watching everything that was going on with Southend, be it last year or in the last few years? Everything going on behind the scenes, us not knowing if we'd have a club. How was it watching that when you weren't really involved with the club?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's the first result I look at. When I wasn't there, I live in the area, friends, go to games week in, week out. It's part of my growth. All my youth, and it's my club. So no one wants to see that. No one wants to see the club struggle or go through. I think one thing the club has got, and you see it, even with the likes of clubs that have gone, like Bury and places like that, there's so many good people that they care about the club, and it means so much to them, and that's what keeps it going. I look now, you're in the National League and you're getting 8,000-9,000. It's unbelievable, and the numbers that you travel in, and you just want to see the football club do well, and it should be. It's a big football club. For me, it's a League One club. That's where it is, and you want to see it get back there. And so yeah, it's hard. Of course it is. You don't want to see struggle. You've got lots of friends and people, and like I said, I've got so many great memories there that you don't want to see it hit hard times. But it will come back, and it is coming back, which is great to see. And when I did leave, it was terrible. You know, I had 2 years left on my contract. I didn't want to go. But I couldn't stay. I was 30. I couldn't stay for my own career and my family's. Like I said, didn't know when we're getting paid, not getting paid. And unfortunately, it was just a time I had to go. You know, there was no two ways about it. But it was, and the club was, you know, heading back to League Two, and I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to be going back there. It was too important stage of my career to be heading that way. So, but it hurt. No, it hurt. It was not an easy decision, and it was done really for family reasons more than anything.
Certainly. Well, you spoke about it there, but in 2009, 2010, we were relegated to League Two. And of course, as you said, you had 2 years on your contract, didn't want to leave, but you had to leave. So it's difficult. But, you know, how was the whole process of that, of leaving the club? And did you feel really gutted, obviously, leaving on quite a sour note? We're going to talk about it in a minute, you return and everything, but leaving the first time on a sour note, having just been relegated, how did that feel?
Yeah, it was horrible. One of the hardest things I ever done was when I spoke to 𝗕𝗮𝗏𝗧𝗧 about it. You know, we obviously, I've mentioned the finances. You know, we didn't get paid for 3 months that season, but payment was late for probably a good year. You know, 2 weeks late. Don't know when it's coming. A week late, and I was just at a stage in my career where I thought the club was heading into the abyss. Like we all, like Simon Francis and Frank Musa and Alan McCormack, and you know the senior lads that had done so well. We just looked, and unfortunately, it's like you had an opportunity. Crystal Palace, I had Charlton interested at the time, and I thought that's where I was going to be going, but that was dragging on. And then Crystal Palace coming in, I couldn't turn it down. You know, you got a Championship club there, big club. But it was hard. Yeah, it wasn't easy because 2 years previously, you know, I signed the long-term deal with, and all the ambition was the club's the new stadium, going to establish itself in the Championship. I was going to be the captain and leading it, and you know, I was fully on board with that. And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But yeah, it was very difficult. It wasn't an easy decision, and it hurt me to leave, but. You know, that's life. You've got to do what's best for your wife, your children, and your family, and get on with it. You know,
Certainly. Well, one positive thing that we can talk about, because we started off with positives, maybe a few negatives with things going on behind the scenes, but we spoke about the cup game against United before. Sadly, you couldn't feature in that, but one you did feature in was the game against Chelsea, where we drew in the last minute, goal in the last minute at Stamford Bridge. So just talk me through that game, and you know how amazing that was to go and play against a team like Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and even nick a draw and get a replay at Roots Hall.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Chelsea at the time, full of world stars. It was, you know, Scolari was manager, and it was brilliant. And to go out there, full house at the bridge, and I think we took 7,000 or whatever that day. I think it was the whole shed end was. And again, it was another one of them special days, and obviously it was a difficult game. We went 1-0 down, but we hung in there. We defended well. We just stayed in it. Then we got an opportunity. Little Johnny Hurd with his long throw, right near the death, threw it in. I think I made a little bit of a nuisance of myself, so they couldn't win the first ball. And then it fell to Peter Clark, who headed it in. And you know, you see the shed end and the fans just erupt, and it was a magical moment. You know, brilliant. And you know, for us to go there and such a difficult place to go as well, when they had all their big hitters playing, to go there and get a draw, and financially at the time great for the football club, getting back to Roots Hall, full house. It was brilliant. Good day out. Great memories.
Were there any players on that Chelsea sheet that really stood out to you that they were a handful to deal with?
Well, it's funny because Didier Drogba played that day, so I was always looking forward to coming up against him.
It's not a bad name,
But you know, obviously Frank Lampard and they had all their Joe Cole, Ashley Cole, they were all playing. So it was all of them were top players. But yeah, no, thoroughly enjoyed it. I love playing against, when you come up against the big ones. I thought he was probably going to have a little bit more of a fight with 𝗕𝗮𝗄 than what he did that day, but he was always playing off you, so he wasn't up against you all the time. But no, like I said, it was great to test yourselves. But when you're in game mode, you don't really care who you're playing against. You just want to go and get the result. And thankfully that day we did. And then I thought again, little moments. It was like the replay. We went 1-0 up. It was nice to go and get the goal at home myself. So that was a great moment for myself. But to go 1-0 up, and I thought we had them on the rocks. We really did. I thought they were struggling. Every set play they looked nervous, and I fancied to go and get another goal. And then out of nothing, just before half time, Michael Ballack, the German international, scored a really good finish, and that was just before half time. And it was weird, we went back in at half time and actually felt disappointed, and we're 1-1 with Chelsea at home, but it just felt that the moment this was going to be tough now, because now their confidence grew, and then we had to try and open up and go for the win. So, but up until that moment, up until just before half time, I thought we had a great chance of going and winning that game, and it felt that way. But again, great games to be involved in. I was involved in the Tottenham games at White Hart Lane, and again, just great memories. Brilliant time for the club, and great for the supporters. Like I said, to take 7,000 up to the bridge and they can go home, happy that we've come away with a result was, brilliant.
Yeah, so you then joined Palace after leaving Southend after so many games, over 30 goals, which is quite ridiculous for a centre-back, those stats. Well, for any player, really, 30 goals is not bad going in those games. So, obviously you then joined Palace, where you played 7 games, on loan at Orient and then Bournemouth. So there was quite a bit of jumping around after Southend, which, looking at your career just on paper, it's like you kind of stayed at a club for a good few years, got a good few games there. But after leaving Southend, there was almost a bit of jumping around. How did that feel to not be quite so settled at just one club for a period of time?
Yeah, I think looking back now, I think it was probably a little knock-on effect to the end of the Southend thing. I was unsettled, probably then a little bit inconsistent. In saying that, I probably had the best pre-season I ever had going to Crystal Palace, and I really felt I should have started that season, and I was very disappointed not to, because I'd had a really strong pre-season, hungry to go and do well there. And it just didn't quite work out. And then when I broke into the team, I had a run of 5 games, I think it was, on the bounce, really got myself settled. I thought, all right, here we go. And then I got my nose broke and got concussed up at Middlesbrough. Tried to play, you wouldn't be allowed nowadays, but that was a Saturday. I tried to play on the Tuesday against Watford at home and had to come off. And then I missed, I think I was out for 2-3 weeks with that. Then by the time I come back, I just couldn't get going then. It was stop-start. So yeah, it was difficult for me. And then again, it was a decision, the end of that season, Dougie Freeman got the job, wanted me to stay at Crystal Palace. I had a year left. But because of the season before, I was just frustrated, and then Bournemouth come in and put a bid in for me to go and captain them. So probably should have stayed at Palace at the time. Like, I had a young family, all settled in Essex, but I decided, no, I'm going to go to Bournemouth. The new owner, the Russian, had come in, and they were putting a lot of money into the club, and it looked like the club's really going somewhere. I was captain. And again, for the first half of the season, it was brilliant. I was loving my football again. Played every 20-odd games up until the Christmas period. And it was quite difficult with the family, not going to lie. The travelling, I weren't travelling every day, but backwards and forwards. And I think with me being in the car and travelling more, I was 31. Unfortunately, I ruptured my hamstring. Christmas time, Sheffield United at home. And that put me out for the rest of the season. So I missed the second half of the season at Bournemouth with a ruptured hamstring. And that was tough. I found that difficult, being away from the family a lot. It was harder getting back. I had 2 young children. And then my mum fell ill. And so my mum fell quite seriously ill at the time. Again, I had another year left at Bournemouth, but I had to come. I had to get home. For family reasons, I had to get home for my children, my wife, but also my mum was really unwell. So, my agent obviously put the feelers out, and Martin Allen, who'd been an admirer and tried to sign me a couple of times previously, was at Gillingham, and he was the one that come knocking, and he was like, look, I want you to come back here. They were in League Two at the time. I didn't really want to drop back to League Two, but he was like, look, I want you to be my captain, and I want you to get us out of the division. So, come back to Gillingham, and again, felt settled, felt good, and had two, fantastic years there with a league title and another Player of the Year and Team of the Year. And so it was, it was an unsettling couple of years for us with Palace and Bournemouth, but then sort of found my feet again back home. Not quite across the water, but I was living back home, and it just felt right again.
So in 2015, a bit of jumping around, but you really settled at Gillingham for quite a while. But in 2015, you had the chance to return to Southend. So when you got the opportunity or heard that there might be an opportunity to come back to Southend, what were you feeling when you heard that?
Well, cool. It was strange, really, because I'd had two really good. I was captain of Gillingham, two really good seasons. Obviously, won promotion, won the title, and then stayed up in League One the next year. Peter Taylor had come in, and Pete's brilliant with me, but he wanted to go younger. Obviously, I was 35 or whatever it was at the time. So we had a great chat, and that was brilliant. And then, I just sort of got the call that Southend would be interested. I always said in my head I wanted to go back and finish my career there. I felt like there was a little bit of unfinished business. I didn't like the way that it was left the first time. If I ever had the opportunity to go back, then I'd jump at it. So when I got the call, I was delighted. I still had a year left on my contract at Gillingham, but it weren't about money. It weren't about. I just wanted to come back and play for the football club. I wanted to go and finish my career, and so I was, as you can imagine, I was very, very pleased to come back.
Certainly. Well, at the end of that season, obviously, one of the most iconic moments in Southend history, the 2014-2015 playoffs. So, you said about how you wanted to come back, end your career at Southend. There was a bit of unfinished business. Well, what a perfect way to come back. You came back and had arguably, one of the most incredible seasons in Southend's history, with the playoff final being one of the most famous games ever in our history. So just talk me through that season and how it felt to, you left in not the best way, not your fault, but you didn't really like how you left and you wanted to come back, and then that happened. So just talk me through that season.
Yeah, it was balmy, really. So obviously when I come back in January, or whatever it was, and then Phil Brown, I don't think he didn't play us for the first sort of 10 games or whatever it is. So I was just sat in the stands. And when I first come back, there was a little bit more pressure because I was 35 now. I wasn't, 24 when I first. And so obviously your game's changing, your body's getting older. So I felt a little bit of pressure, but the hunger was there, and I was so determined to come back and do well. And Phil didn't play me for 10 games. It was only... So I was really frustrated because I thought, what's the point of coming back to sit me in the stands? And then Luke Prosser got injured. He got knocked out in a home game with a free kick. And I'm not sure Phil wanted to play me, but he had no choice. So I come into the team, and that was it. I didn't look back. I think I won PFA Player of the Month, and we conceded hardly. I think we went... I don't know, something like last 12 games, we conceded 2 goals or whatever it was. It was a ridiculous run, and formed a really good partnership with 𝗘𝗮𝗅𝗔𝗏, and I was determined to show that there's still fight in the dog, and I was ready to be successful with Southend. But the ending was tremendous. I absolutely loved it. It was a great group of guys.
Yep.
I was like their dad coming into the team, younger ones. And I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every day going into work. I enjoyed the training ground, playing at home, being back at Roots Hall, where I know for a few years when I'd left, obviously there was tough times. And when I come back and we was in the playoffs and fighting and it sold out, it was how I had that feeling like I did the first time. It was like, this is what the club's about. This is what it should be. And yeah, it's brilliant to live that and go through it again and then to get to the playoffs. I never played at Wembley because the times that we got there, the new Wembley was being built, so we was in Cardiff. So we had two finals. With Southend had the playoff and the LDVs. So to get to Wembley at the stage of the career that I was at and to play on, you know, the Hello Turf at my club at the stage I was at in my career was so special, and it was it was amazing time, and I'm pleased that I played at Wembley at that stage of my career because I really took it in early on in my career when we played at Cardiff and the plus. You're younger, you think this is lasting forever, so you don't really take it in. Where at Wembley at that stage, I could really soak up and enjoy the moment, and it was, what a finish, what a game, and then to go and take the penalty and and to score there was just an unbelievable feeling.
So I believe when you originally signed for Southend in the January, I believe it was just the idea that you were going to play until the end of the season, and then at the end of the season you signed a new 1-year deal. So did you feel like, was the original plan for you to kind of retire at the end of that season? And if so, like what sort of changed your mind to decide to stay another year?
Back in the January, I signed to the end of the season because I had a year left on my contract at Gillingham, so that was fine. I was cool with that. And then, like I said, because Phil Brown sat me in the stands for 10 weeks or 10 games, whatever it was, I wanted to retire at Southend. I didn't want to go and play anywhere else then. And I just felt, so I did actually say I'd retire at the end of the season because I was trying to take back a little bit of control of my career. I felt Phil Brown was trying to retire me, and I weren't happy with that. So I thought, I haven't come back here just to sit in the stands. So I was like, well, okay, well, I'm done then. I'm done the end of the season. I'm not doing this. Then obviously Luke Prosser got injured. I had to come in and play. I knew I could still play. I knew I had more left in the tank, and I think I proved that. Got promoted. And then at that time, mine and Phil's relationship was much better because I'd come in and done well for him. He wanted me to stay, and I wanted to stay. I had more. I weren't finished, and I think I proved it the following season. You know, he wanted to give me the captaincy back. He wanted me to lead and lead the youngsters, which at the time I said I'm happy not to wear the armband because I don't need the armband to lead the boys and be captain. But he was insistent, so it was an easy thing for me to do. I'd come back. It had been brilliant. I wanted to make sure the club then established itself back in League One, where I played, so many years. So it was an easy decision in the end. It was done. Ron phoned me. It was done in like 5 minutes. I'll sign another year, and I just thought, right, I'll just go year to year, and we'll see how long I feel good and if I'm enjoying it. And the second season was great. I loved it. It was another great season personally for me as well. It was good. Played a lot of games, scored a few goals, and it was nice just to get the club back in League One and establish itself there.
Well, this next part, I was actually told to talk to you about this. So in 2016, you had a celebration against Colchester, with quite a few people saying, one of the best celebrations that Roots Hall's ever seen. So just talk me through that, because I was told to talk to you about it. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, obviously, because of my Southend links and over the years, and probably I'm not the most popular with Colchester fans, you'd like to say, as being a Southend boy, and we've had some great battles with them over the years. Like my first spell, we was both, fair play to them. They were up there as well. It was great for Essex football because we were both challenging, both trying to get in the Championship, and they got there and stayed a couple of years. And so we had some real ding-dongs at their place at Layer Road, and then obviously I had the famous mistake at Colchester, where the ball went in, and I'm going to blame the pitch. The pitch was terrible, but so they used to give me loads of abuse over that. And obviously, I knew it was one of the last times I'm probably going to play against them in a derby at Roots Hall. Sold out, always a great atmosphere. Always liked playing against them. So to go and score, it was a lot of emotion, really. It was years of being their rival. It was years of them abusing me, years of me giving them a little bit back. To go and beat them at home, score, and I think I weren't the quickest then, but I run down the whole far side, and it was great. It was a great feeling, and it was it just felt, it wasn't just that moment. It was 10 years of battles and the competition against them, and a lot of banter both ways. They give me a lot of stick, I'll give it back to them a little bit, and it all just sort of come out in that moment. But yeah, brilliant. I don't look back loads and watch things, but I do quite like looking back and looking at that goal, I must admit.
Definitely. Well, in February 2017, you retired, aged 38. So how did it feel to play for so long? Because you see so many players retiring, maybe like 32, maybe 33, but 38 is, a really great age to retire. You played for so many years. So how did it feel to play for so long? And did you think you were ready to retire?
First of all, I was, extremely proud to get 735 games and play, like you said, for so many years, different clubs, and represent them and captain different clubs. So I was extremely proud. Was I quite ready to retire? No. I just thought, obviously, my relationship with Phil Brown was sort of non-existent at the time, and I felt like I got forced into it a little bit. Again, I didn't like the way that I left. I thought it was very disrespectful from Phil to me. I've got no problem saying that either. I thought he was very, very disrespectful to me in and I'd probably say my last 3-4 months at the club was probably the hardest of my career, and I hate to say that because I was at the club which I loved. I thought I was treated very, very poorly, and I never ever thought that I would leave the club in that way. For me, it was just stupid. If my time playing for him was done, then let's be respectful and let me have a chance to say goodbye to the supporters and thank them. And I had such a great rapport with the fans over the 2 spells, and so many great times. And I must admit, it really hurt us for the last 3 months of my time at Southend. Like I said, it was the worst of my career, and it was probably one of the most unhappiest I've been in my career. So I just come to the decision that I'm not putting up with this. I didn't think I deserved it. I didn't think that the respect was shown to me. So it was a case of, right, I'm not putting up with this anymore. So again, to leave, I come back and had, again, brilliant 2 years. It was fantastic. But to leave the way I did again, it was just, it was no need for it. There was absolutely no need. And for a comment to come out in the Echo on a Monday night, and that was me, I was done. I just thought it was really poorly handled by, and I will blame Phil Brown for that. That's how I felt. So, but yeah, unfortunately, that was that, and retired. But look back, I didn't want to go and play for anyone else. I had a couple of other options to carry on, but I said I wanted to retire at Southend. I was heavily into my coaching then, and it was right. Okay, that's done. But a fantastic career, wonderful career, very privileged, very proud to be in it as long as I did. And then it was on to the next chapter. So away you go, onto the coaching, and
yeah, absolutely. Yep, we'll definitely talk about the coaching in just a moment. Looking at your career, one thing I think we spoke about it before, but I think we mentioned it previously. But with the goals, how many goals you scored? Is that really something that you, like, looking back, are really proud on how many goals you scored? Because it's quite rare for a centre back to score quite so many as you did.
Yeah, it was. Of course, it's great to score goals. Of course, it is. I used to get more excitement out of making a tackle or a last-ditch block, or I got the same feeling with that as scoring. But yeah, my game. People who watched me, I was all determination was a big thing for me. I'm not a 6'5" half, 6'1", so I'm not the biggest. But I was just determined to go and win the ball. And every time there was a corner, I just fancied my chances. I wanted to go and head it, and if I've got to run through someone to go and edit, I'll run through someone to go and edit. That was just my mentality. But I just felt, like I said, I felt if the ball was right and the delivery was good, I've got a great chance of scoring. probably should have scored a few more as well. But no, I was, extremely pleased to get nearly 50 goals from centre half. And I do tell people they weren't all with my head either. There was a few there with my feet, so it wasn't all with my head. But no, it's great, and there's no better feeling than scoring a goal. And like I said, especially playing for your hometown club and scoring at Roots Hall was brilliant for me. Great memories.
Definitely. Well, before the podcast, I think I said to you that interviews with ex-players is something that I've really made a big thing on my account, and it's something that I just love doing because interviewing a current player is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but when you interview somebody who's already had their career and you get to talk about so many stories, so many funny memories. Are there any stories and funny moments that really stick out to you? Because I know when I spoke to Ryan Leonard, he was telling some stories about a playoff party with I think Phil Brown dancing on the table or something. But do you have any funny memories or stories over the years?
Yeah, there's got a lot. Probably not many I can say on a podcast, but
any you're comfortable sharing, of course.
Yeah, I think from the first spell, the obvious one, it's been spoke about when Freddie Eastwood and James Lawson had a little thing, and they was getting out of hand with each other's cars, messing with each other's clothes. Yeah. And then Freddie took it one step too far and hid fish in the lining of his. I can't remember where he put them. Put one in the bonnet of his car the smell was horrendous for weeks. And James couldn't understand where the fish was, couldn't get rid of it. He had to end up getting rid of the car because it was just it was awful. So little things like that, the lads are always at each other. Yeah. Second spell, the Christmas do's were brilliant in Dublin. The fancy dress do's, and we had a great time, and I just enjoyed it then because I was still in and amongst it, but I felt like I was the dad, almost trying to, I like a drink and I like a laugh and a party, but it was almost trying to keep this lot in check. But no, there's loads of great times. Really, I used to love training. Used to love the banter on the training pitch. I don't think there's anything better when you got a smile on your face, and if you're enjoying what you do, you work hard and you're with good people, which we were. Like both squads, there were spells in both my spells when, really good lads, really, really good players that cared about the club and their careers. So it's, I've got so many good memories of so many people.
Certainly. Well, you spoke about it then, but we're going to talk about your coaching career now. So March 2017, you joined Millwall in their coaching staff. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us about your time at Millwall and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, it was always something I've had my eye on when I retired. I want to become a manager. Got the opportunity to go in at Millwall as first team coach to start with, which was really good. My first season we went there and we got promotion via the playoffs to the Championship. Pipped Southend that season. We went down to Bristol Rovers and won last game and got into the playoffs. So that was great to come in and really get another promotion under your belt so early, especially in your coaching, and make your mark straight away. And then to be in the Championship and what you have noticed, the levels in football, the detail in football, has just gone up and up and up. And it's been great for me. I had a couple of opportunities probably in the first year or two maybe to come out and manage. But it wasn't the right time. I didn't feel I was ready. So I wanted to make sure I'd done my now apprenticeship and learn the ropes. And for 8 years to establish ourselves in the Championship, punched above our weight. I've had two spells as interim manager where I've stepped up and taken charge and been involved in everything really, under 4 different managers, Gary Rowett, Joe Edwards, Neil Harris on two occasions. It's been a great learning curve for me, really enjoyed it, really tested myself, completed all my badges, my pro license, all that was done 5-6 years ago. And very, very. So I'm just at a good stage now. I'm very confident in how I want to work. I know exactly all my planning's done, all my prep's done, and it got to January this year, and I've been assistant for 6 years, assistant to 4 different managers, and Alex Neil was coming in. The club were great, wanted me to stay, but it just felt the right time now. It was I had to now make the break because I want to manage. So it's been. I've enjoyed a little bit of a break, which has done me good. I must admit, I've been loads of games, networking, meeting people, meetings. So I'm in a really good place at the moment. I'm just waiting now for the right opportunity, and when the right opportunity arises, then I'm ready to jump in and manage. But that was my decision to come out in January. Like I said, Millwall's been brilliant. Been fantastic 8 years there, and learnt a hell of a lot. And on the level, to work at that level for so long, I'm really proud of that as well, because there's not many people last that long in first team football for 8 years at one club. So I'm extremely proud of that, and it was nice to go out on my terms. One thing I will say, as a football club, the way they've handled it, the way they've treated people has been first class. Can't speak highly enough of the chairman and the board and the way they do it. And wish them all the very success in the future. And now I'm just excited about my next challenge. Looking forward to it. I'm hungry again. I feel like the young guy ready to make his debut again. And I've got all the knowledge, all the experience under my belt, and just ready to go. Yeah, so looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, one thing at Millwall, somebody I literally had on my podcast a few weeks ago, Ryan Leonard. Of course, he was actually, he still is playing for Millwall, but he was playing there when you were there coaching. What was that like, coaching somebody that you'd actually played with before?
Yeah, it was a little bit strange to start with. I mean, he wouldn't be at the club if it weren't for me, because we went after him. But
Nice.
it was strange. Look, I get on really well with Lenny. Lenny was, a great lad, and I'm close with him as a player and as his captain. And so when you first then comes in and he's a player, and now I've stepped across the line, as they say, and now I'm a cut member of staff, the relationship had to change a little bit. I think he always knew that I'm there to help him, or a sounding board, and I was there I wanted him to do well, of course, and I know what a good player he is. But yeah, unfortunately, the relationship changes, because you can't be as close to him as what you was. You're not one of his teammates now. But it was fine. Like I said, I'm ready. I was ready for that stage of my career, and it's part and parcel. So, and unfortunately, you can't. There's no sentiment. It's a business. You've got to go and get results. We need him to perform. So if I had to tell him, I'd tell him. But he's a good friend. He's a good friend. I'm delighted that he's done well and got over his injury problems, and he's had a real strong couple of seasons now. So I'm absolutely delighted for him. And it's quite nice. It's nice working with people that you like, and you trust, because one thing I am, I think I'm straight talking. I'll be honest, and I'll be upfront with people. So whether you're my mate or not, I will tell you my feelings, and there's no there's no malice, or it's not personal. It's just it's work. But no, delighted for him, and it was nice to work with him again. Brilliant.
Well, we're all rooting for you to make your debut in the managerial scene, obviously away from Millwall. So this pretty much wraps up the podcast. I've really, really enjoyed it. Without a doubt, one of the best podcast guests I've ever had on. So thank you very much for talking, and so many things to talk about. To be honest, to try and cram it into even an hour is
it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah, when I was doing my research for the podcast, I was like, "Oh my god, we're going to need a day for this," but but we managed to do it. So, and hopefully everyone enjoyed at home. Is there anything you want to say before I wrap it up?
No, I'd just like to thank you. Wish you all the very, very best, Finn. I think it's cracking work that you're doing, so keep that going. On the last note, I'd just like to wish all the Shrimpers all the very best. Rooting for you. Fingers crossed we can make the playoffs and get the club back where it should be. Hope everyone's healthy, happy. Great to do this. It's lovely to talk old times and that, and I want to wish you all the very best and good luck in your career. And the last to leave it is, come on the Blues, you can do it.
Come on. Well, this is going to go out just probably on the Sunday, just after the Wealdstone game. So we might either, if we've lost that game and somehow we're out of the playoffs, then we might be looking a bit silly now. But let's fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Okay.
But,
well, if we're out of the playoffs, then I'll just say wish everyone a great summer, and we'll do it next year.
yeah, there you go. We've got two options now. Perfect.
There we go. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, really enjoyed having you on. One more question I want to ask is, I like to ask ex-players this, partly because it's interesting who they say, and partly because it does my job for me, sets up the next one. But who do you think I should interview next?
Oh, who do I think? Do you want what for my first spell or second spell?
Anyone you think for Southend, obviously related, would be good. I've interviewed already Ryan Leonard. Even players as far back as like Gary Nelson. So yeah, I've already interviewed those two. I think there's a few others, but so many podcasts now, it's hard to keep up with all. But yeah, you take it away.
I would say a popular one. He was the best goalkeeper I ever played in front of. Great guy. He'd be good to have on. He was popular with the supporters. So 𝗕𝗮𝗰𝗧, I think, would be a good one to get on your podcast. Lots of good memories with Flav. So if you can get him, if you need his number, not a problem. And I'm sure he'd love to do it. But it'd be a good one for you.
Yep, 100%. Well, he's definitely right at the top of my list. So I'm glad you said him. Perfect. Well, yeah, that's pretty much the end of the podcast. Thank you very much, Adam, for coming on. I'm sure another time you're always welcome to come on whenever. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Hope everyone at home enjoyed it as well. If you did, please like and subscribe. 𝗕𝗮𝗰𝗧, fingers crossed, be the next one. And yeah, thank you very much, Adam, for coming on. See you all on the next one.